Good morning. So today we will have two videos. The first video will be about the distance and midpoint formula, which should be a very short session. So first thing, distance formula. The distance formula is to compute the distance between any two given points on a coordinate plane. We could start with some simple examples. For example, number 1, find the length of side AB and side BC by measuring the distances on the graphing grid. So let's do that first. AB, so if you count the number boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we have 8 boxes. So AB is 8. And then do the same thing for BC, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is 6. Since this is a right triangle, because this is 90 degrees, we can apply the Pythagorean theorem to find out the length of side AC. If you remember the Pythagorean theorem, for a right triangle, let's actually do a better right triangle. For a right triangle like this, the 90 degrees is right here. We have 3 sides. Let's say this is A, this is B, and this is C. Then according to Pythagorean theorem, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So that will be what we're going to be doing for number 1. 6 squared equals plus A squared equals AC squared. Calculate the left hand side, you will get 100 exactly, equals AC squared. Take a square root on both sides. Because AC cannot be negative, we don't need absolute value on the right hand side. You simply put AC. On the left hand side, square root of 100 is simply 10. Therefore, the length of AC is 10. Let's do another example. This time, it's more related to the distance between 2 points. We have DE given by the graph. They want you to find the length of the line segment DE using a method similar to problem 1. Well, they're not exactly the same because in the second graph, we don't have that right triangle. So that means you're going to actually manually create that right triangle, which is not that difficult. So all you need to do is connect this side and this side, and that becomes a right triangle right here. And you just need to figure out what are the length of the 2 legs, and then apply Pythagorean theorem. You will be able to find out the hypotenuse. Let's look at the base first. The base has 3 boxes, so it's 3. The height has 4 boxes, so it's 4. Therefore, we could apply the same formula, 3 squared plus 4 squared equals DE squared. And then you solve this. On the left hand side, if you add them up, you're going to get 25 equals DE squared. Take a square root on both sides. On the left hand side, we have 5. On the right hand side, because DE cannot be negative, it's the length of the side of a triangle. It has to be positive, so you don't need absolute value. Your answer is simply 5. Therefore, the length of DE is 5. Now let's generalize what we just discovered. Find the length of the side D in the triangle below in terms of the coordinates. So you have x1, y1, x2, y2. Apparently we need to find out the base and the height. So for the base, it's from y1 to, it's from x1 to x2, right? It's the horizontal distance. Horizontal distance is connected to the first number in the coordinates, which is the x coordinate. So for the base, you simply use the larger x coordinate, which is x2, subtract the smaller x coordinate, which is x1. So that's your base. For your height, this is talking about the vertical difference. So you're going to find out the difference between the y coordinates using the larger y coordinates, which is y2, minus the smaller y coordinates, which is y1. You find out our height is y2 minus y1. And then we can apply the Pythagorean theorem, which says that x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared equals d squared. Therefore, if I take a square root on both sides, On the right hand side, the square root and the square root cancel out. So we got a formula for our distance between the 2 points. D equals square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So that's the distance formula. You could use this formula to compute the distance between any 2 points. The benefits of using this formula is you don't have to graph the points and then visually identify the right triangle anymore. But if you're a visual learner, the right triangle might be the best way for you. So for number 4, instead of using triangle, I'm going to apply the formula instead. Before you apply the formula, make sure you label your points. x1, y1, x2, y2. And then we're going to plug it in. D equals something x2 minus x1 squared. Our x2 is 7 minus x1 is 4 squared plus y2, that's negative 5, minus y1, which is negative 1 squared. So notice that inside the second part, double negative becomes positive. So right here it becomes positive. And then we continue. First part, it's 7 minus 4, that is 3. 3 squared, that is 9. And then the second part, negative 5 plus 1, that's negative 4. Negative 4 squared, that's positive 16. And then 9 plus 16, that is 25. So we have radical 25, which is simply positive 5. So we got our answer, positive 5. Moving on to second page, midpoints. Midpoints, I'm just going to do one example because midpoints are pretty easy to understand. For example, 5, 0, negative 1, negative 4. Let's plot these 2 points first. X is 5, y is 0, so the point is right here. And then we have second point, negative 1, negative 4, which is right here. Let's connect them. Once you connect them, I think you should be able to visualize the midpoint, right? It looks like the midpoint is right here. It's basically a point that's equidistant to the 2 given points. The other way to look at midpoint is look at the horizontal difference and the vertical difference. The midpoint has to be equidistant both horizontally and vertically. So if you look at the horizontal distance between the original 2 points, it looks like it's 6. Therefore, the midpoint should be 3 and 3 in the middle. Vertical difference between the original 2 numbers, it is 4. Therefore, the midpoint has to be 2 and 2. That's the distance to the 2 ends. And that will also give you the midpoint right there. If you read the graph, the midpoint coordinate will be 2 and negative 2. There is a formula for midpoint. The midpoint, so let's say I have 2 points, x1, y1, x2, y2. If you want to find out the midpoint, you simply calculate the average of the 2 coordinates. So for the x coordinate, you add the x coordinates of the 2 given points and divide by 2. For the y coordinate, you do the original y coordinates, add them up, and divide by 2. That will give you the midpoint. So for example, let's look at number 3 right here. Suppose we have 2 points, 5, 0, negative 1, negative 4. You want to find out the midpoint. So you simply calculate the average of the x coordinates and the average of the y coordinates. And this is exactly the visual that we did in number 1 right there, right? We already calculated the midpoint is 2, negative 2. Now let's use the formula to verify. To calculate the x coordinate, you add the x coordinates and then calculate the average. We have 5, we have negative 1, and then you divide it by 2. 5 plus negative 1, that is positive 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So the x coordinate of the midpoint is 2. Then let's calculate the midpoint, the y-coordinate of the midpoint. Original two y-coordinates are 0 and -4, so we add them and divide by 2. If you do that, you're going to get -2. Therefore, the y-coordinates of the midpoint is -2. Is this consistent with the midpoint you found in number 1? Absolutely yes. Alright, so I gave you some time. Practice with number 4 using the formula, or you could visualize it, find out the midpoint of these 2 points. -3, -6, 3, and 3, 5. Pause the video when you work on it. Check your answer when you complete. Alright, hopefully you finish number 4 with ease. To calculate the x-coordinate of the midpoint, you add the two x-coordinates, which is -6 and +3, and you divide it by 2. That's going to give you -3/2. To calculate the y-coordinate of the midpoints, you add the two y-coordinates, which is 3 and 5, and then you divide it by 2. That will give you +4. Therefore, that is the midpoint of these 2 points. Alright, hopefully you learned something today. That's basically chapter 13, the distance formula and the midpoint formula. Let me know if you have any question. And in terms of the homework, it's gonna be on the last page again. Make sure you check out OneNote. And thanks for watching.